Yes, guys, welcome back to the channel. Coming to you from sunny Marbella. I would have had a view, a nice background, but it's actually really cloudy today. But anyway, this is going to be a one-take video. I have a few notes on my phone, but the topic of this video is going to be how to drop body fat and stay lean. This video is ideal for the men who are wanting to drop, I would say, probably between 10 to 20, 25 pounds of body fat. I don't usually work with men who have loads of weight to lose. I don't work with, quote unquote, weight loss clients. It's more men who are looking to, as I say, bring their body fat down from probably around 20% down to that kind of ideal range of, I would say, 10 to 12%. Visible abs, lots of definition, muscular development. Now, the people that I usually work with and my team work with are high performing professionals. I know everyone says that these days, but if I look at the people that I checked in with today, a CEO, an executive director, a consultant, an accountant, and a few more this morning. So those are the sorts of men that we work with. I would say probably ages of 30 to 45. And the common theme that comes up on their fitness journeys and the reason why they've struggled to achieve the result that I've mentioned before is usually due to high stress. And with that can entail, per sleep, multiple travel periods throughout the year, specifically busier periods of work, and usually actually as well a pretty active social life. So my job as their coach is basically to bring everything together, provide them with a structure and routine in order to help them achieve that result. And this is literally what I spend my life doing, advising men on how to manage stress, get lean, and maintain it, and everything that comes with that. So I'm literally just going to split this video into three really easy sections. We're going to be covering training, nutrition, and recovery. Those are the three biggest things that you're going to need to address if you want to move the needle to help you get lean and keep that body fat off. Now, to be honest, I'm going to start with some nutrition because, without an optimized nutritional framework, you're going to struggle to lean down. You can have the perfect training plan. You can be paying your personal trainer $300 an hour, 5 times a week for in-person sessions. But if you're overeating and you're not consuming the right targets for you in terms of proteins, carbs, and fats, then you're never going to get the body composition results that you want. You might build a little bit of muscle, but you're never going to lean down. So with nutrition, this is really going to be dictated by your current stats. So that would be your weight, your height, your age, and your rough activity level. So when I calculate a client's nutrition targets, if I was going to calculate them targets to help them lose fat, like I've mentioned before, we need them to be in a calorie deficit. So for me, let's take the example of me. I'm a little bit different because I'm highly active. I do a lot of running and a little bit of lifting as well. But I know for me, to maintain my weight, I would need to consume around probably 2,800 calories. So if I wanted to lose body fat and go into a calorie deficit, I would subtract 300 from that amount. So let's say your maintenance is a little bit lower than mine, 2,500. In order to drop body fat, you would want to stick to around 2,200 calories a day. That is what I would class as a moderate deficit, not too aggressive, and that's going to help you steadily lose weight over time. Obviously, provided that you are training consistently, doing a small amount of cardio, and doing a good amount of steps each day, which I'll get onto later on in the video. If you want to lose weight a little bit quicker, maybe you've got a holiday coming up in 2 or 3 months, you could increase that deficit to, let's say, 500 calories per day. But the risk that you run with doing that is lower calories generally equals higher hunger. So I'm a fan of starting as high as we can afford to do so with a client's targets, and then bringing them steadily down over time. And the way that we can make proper objective decisions there is because we track data with the clients. We track their body weight 5 to 7 times a week. We take visual progress photos. We track their nutrition as well. We understand their movement throughout the week. But yeah, calorie deficit, 300 to 500 calories per day. Now, the next most important thing with the nutrition would be the protein intake. So for most males, obviously, to drop body fat, they would need to be resistance training. Most males want to build a little bit of muscle as well whilst leaning down. I would recommend between 2 to 2.5 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. So let's say for me, my body weight is 80 kg. I know for me, I would need to consume between probably 160 and 190 grams of protein a day, which is generally what I aim for. The next macro would be fats. So it's essential to have a healthy amount of fats in your diet to maintain good hormone function and provide you with long-lasting energy throughout the day and throughout the week. If someone is in a deficit, naturally, obviously, they're going to be on lower calories, so we don't want to be over-consuming on fats. So for a male, again, of my body weight, if they were dieting down, I would say between 60 to 80 grams of fat. In terms of carbohydrates, a good way to think about those that's going to be your fuel source when you are training. It's going to provide you with the energy to train hard in the gym and help you maintain and build muscle, because if you've got no energy in the gym, you're not going to be able to progressively overload, therefore you're not giving your body a reason to change or build muscle. So a lot of men are scared to consume carbohydrates, and that's a big mistake I will see them make straight away, is they'll just cut out carbohydrates completely, or they'll massively reduce the amount of carbs, and then, as I said before, their training performance goes to shit. So you need to make sure that you still have a good amount of carbohydrates in the diet. So proteins, carbs, and fats. As you progress through the fat loss phase and the deficit over time, generally what you would have to do is reduce your nutrition target, so bring calories down over time. And the first macro that I would usually change with a client is bringing down their carbs. We could bring down fats as well, but we want to make sure that we keep protein high and consistent, again, to help with muscle maintenance and building muscle too. So that is the nutrition. Now, there's obviously a lot more that goes into it than that. With the people that I work with, the biggest challenge that we usually find with their nutrition is they're on the go, they're traveling, they're having client dinners, they're going out with members of their team. So tracking nutrition on the go is a really useful skill that I would recommend learning. You know, anyone can build themselves a meal plan with ChatGPT. It's really easy to use MyFitnessPal, which is the nutrition tracking app that we recommend to all clients. But I think a key skill to be able to lean down and sustain it, if you do eat out regularly, is being able to eyeball food and track on the go. And I think there's just one important thing to understand with your nutrition when you're on the go, and it's that it's never going to be 100% accurate, and that's okay. But let's say you are consuming on average 3 meals a day. That's 21 meals throughout the entire week. If you have 2 or even 3 meals out and they are inaccurately tracked, that's such a small percentage of your weekly total calorie intake. So even if you, as I said, inaccurately track them, you're probably still going to be within 95% accuracy of your nutrition for the week. And that's something that I usually see with the more high performing clients that I work with, is that they're perfectionists, right? So if they inaccurately track one meal, that usually cascades into a few days of untracked nutrition or poorly tracked nutrition. So it sounds cliche, but it's never always going to be perfect, and consistency is key with tracking. You know, if I go out for a meal and I'm unsure how to track it, I don't lose sleep over. I just get back to my usual targets and my usual routine the next day. So that's nutrition. The next thing would be training. Now, this is really going to depend on the time that you have available to train throughout the week, and also how much you actually want to train as well. I think enjoying your training and what you're doing throughout the week is massively overlooked when it comes to getting in shape. So, you know, yes, if you're only training once or twice a week, then naturally, you know, you're going to have to step it up and train more frequently than that. The people that get the best results that we coach usually train 3 to 4 times a week in the gym. And it's that resistance training each muscle group ideally twice a week, which is going to help build the physique. It's going to help keep the metabolism in a good spot, and it's going to help you lean down more easily than if you were, let's say, resistance training just once a week and doing cardio on top of that. So strength training is really important. If you're going to train 3 days a week, I would recommend lower body, upper body, full body. Again, exposure to each major muscle group twice per week. That's the split that I follow at the moment with my running, and I really enjoy it. If you want to train 4 times a week and you think you've got the time available to do that, then similar to that, upper body, lower body, push and posterior, a little bit more volume on the upper body, but you still get exposure to the lower body twice per week. And those are the structures that most of our clients follow. But again, this is really going to come down to the amount of time that you have available. You know, if you're traveling, let's say once every month for work, is it realistic for you to get into the gym 4 times a week every single week? And this is what I usually find with people that I speak to on Instagram or on consultation calls, is like, yeah, Joe, I'm training 5 times a week. But when you actually go a little bit deeper, you find out that they're actually only completing that maybe once a month, and on 2 out of 4 weeks of the month they're actually training like 3 to 4 times. So actually missing loads of training, and that's not what you want to do. You want to set yourself up for success. You want to give yourself a training routine that challenges you but is also realistic. You know, I always say to clients, it's much better to train 3 days a week consistently the entire year than training 5 or 6 days a week for a month and then training once or twice a week for a month. So consistency is key there. Obviously, within your training sessions, progressive overload is the most important thing. So basically getting better each week and over time. That can be a combination of increasing the weight that you're lifting, increasing the reps that you are doing on that certain weight within a rep range, and also, which I think a lot of people overlook, is improving the quality of the movement. So when we bring on a new client, something we'll encourage them to do in the first 4 weeks is send over form clips of them doing movements, and I would say 8 times out of 10 they're performing the movements incorrectly from a tempo standpoint. So they're just moving the weight way too quickly. They're not getting the right mind to muscle connection, which is going to reduce the results that they get in the long run, for want of a better term. And also it increases the risk of injury as well. So progressive overload is absolutely key. You know, I went into the gym today at a full upper body training session. I was pushing to beat the numbers that I did in the gym the last week. You almost want to gamify the process and try and beat what you did the week before. You know, within a properly structured training program, you need to take recovery weeks and deload weeks as well. So let's say maybe every 8 weeks you have a lighter week of training where maybe you reduce the weight that you're lifting, or you just reduce the volume of the working sets, for example. But those are really the finer details. The most important thing is, as I say, sticking to a consistent training routine over time that can be adapted for travel, if that is something that features in your routine. Now, cardio I would class as a more kind of like, it's part of your expenditure, which would be similar to your steps. I will mention that as well as recovery. So you could add cardio into your routine as well. That will help you lose body fat, but it is not essential. It all comes down to your total output throughout the week. Now, if you're wanting to train towards running goals or something like that, similar to the strength training, that would be programmed in every week depending on the goal that you are working towards. But for the sake of this video, when we're focusing more on purely dropping body fat, I would put cardio that you're doing in the same camp as steps. So that would be your weekly expenditure. So let's say you're doing 8,000 steps a day and we want to create a little bit more of a deficit. We might push that up to 10,000 steps a day. If you weren't doing any cardio, we might add in one 45-minute or 60-minute cardio session each week, again, to elevate the expenditure. So you've got your nutrition, you've got your strength training program, and then you've got your movement and your expenditure. So any cardio that you're doing or any training and movement that you're doing outside of strength training is a good way to think about it. And then the steps as well. And again, from a data standpoint, you want to be tracking that as well. So we will get our clients to track that in the app that we use. These days, a lot of the clients will just link their Garmin or their Whoop or their Apple Watch, the wearable device that they've got, to our app, so we can track the data there and basically make sure that what they're doing each week is consistent across the month. And it's tracking all those data points with the movement, the nutrition, and the training that allows myself and the coaching team that work with me to make objective decisions as to whether we change anything in a client's program. And generally, you would only change something in your program if you've plateaued from a fat loss standpoint. And what would signify that would basically be no improvement in progress photos over, let's say, I would say a 2 to 3 week period. Maybe your body weight has plateaued or even increased a little bit for a period of 5 to 7 days. That might be a sign that you need to change a variable. That could be reducing calories, reducing carbs, like I mentioned before, maybe doing more movements, so doing more cardio or doing steps. Strength training should always remain consistent and remain the same. But again, this only applies if you are hitting all of your targets bang on. You know, if you've not lost weight 1 week, but you've overeaten and you've not done your step, or you've not hit your step count, I think we know why that might have happened. The last thing that I want to touch on is recovery. Now, this is kind of like a broader thing that goes over the top of everything. Obviously, a good way to think about recovery is if you are under-recovered, and obviously the biggest driver of your recovery is going to be nutrition and sleep. But if we use sleep as an example, if you're under-recovered and underslept with poor sleep quality, you're never going to respond to what you're doing as well. So you're never going to respond to these fat loss and deficit targets as well if you are under-recovered. That's when you build back the muscle that you've broken down in the training sessions. That's when the deficit takes effect and you go into a recovered state to allow your body to respond again to drop body fat. So if you're under recovered, you're going to stall or just significantly slow down progress. So ways that you can obviously work on your recovery, make sure it's in a good spot. As I say, nutrition, as you mentioned before, the nutrition targets, specifically the protein and the carbs, are going to help you recover. A lot of people think it's just protein for recovery, but carbohydrates play a big impact in recovery as well, and also helping you really push the high levels of performance in the gym and when you're doing cardio too. But we get all our clients to track their sleep. So we look at their sleep from a duration standpoint, so how much sleep they get in each day, also across the week, and also the quality of it as well. And we use devices like Whoop to look a little bit deeper there. Other methods that you could use for recovery would obviously be deep tissue massages, but that's more kind of like the finer details that are going to help reduce delayed onset muscle soreness. That might help you train a little bit harder in the gym, access a better range of motion, but in terms of like direct benefits to fat loss, those would be minimal. So sleep and nutrition are going to be the most important things for recovery there. And then outside of that, you can use saunas and things like that. But again, they're the finer details. So just to summarize, if you want to drop body fat, you have to be in a deficit. I'd recommend a deficit of 300 to 500 calories a day. Make sure you're tracking all your nutrition, and make sure you commit to tracking and estimating foods when you are eating out as well. Stick to a structured strength training program so you can not only drop body fat, but you can keep your metabolism in a good spot and actually build your physique as well. Add in cardio if you've got the time to do it. Keep it consistent each week. Keep your step count consistent each week as well. Track all the data, and then if you see plateaus in body weight or you feel like you're not improving visually, then you can increase output there or reduce calories or a combination of both. So I hope that was helpful. Obviously not the longest video, but also still a good amount of information in there. If you'd like to see more similar videos like this, drop a comment below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.